Episode 2, Chippy Tee.
Chippy Tee.
Thanks for joining us. It's me, Tony Palmer, and...
Danny, flipping sweet.
What's the move on it?
You caught me out there, I didn't expect that.
And it's just our light-hearted look back at what's happened this week. So I'm going to put all the pressure on Danny straight away and go, right, Danny, tell me about your week.
Oh, you did this last week as well.
I know, yeah, it's good, isn't it?
It's been a good week, mate. It's not been bad at all. Compared to the past couple of weeks, it's been pretty stress-free, smooth sailing. Just a few print jobs to do, and then a little bit of organising. I've moved my ink area upstairs, so that's the type of thing I get excited about these days. So I've took my stainless steel counter, I took it upstairs. I'm building some new shelves. So
all right, so you've got a proper ink kitchen going now.
I've got an ink station upstairs near the press, and then I've still got my ink station downstairs for mixing and everything. But yeah, a bit of organising.
So you're doing all your messy stuff downstairs.
Yeah,
or your messy stuff upstairs.
The mixing colours and everything we're going to keep doing downstairs, and then we'll bring up whatever pots we need upstairs near the near the press. So there's no crossing paths with t-shirts or anything. There's no t-shirts passing ink. We're not that.
I love a clean side, dirty side. That's my cup of tea. Is that
that's the way to go,
having a clean side and a dirty side. So basically, from the dryer down, that's my clean side. That's where all the shirts are.
Yeah.
That's where everything's kept nice and clean. And then the other side of the press where I'm the dirty one. So that's normally where I'll keep all the crap and do all the scraping out and the reclaiming and the mixing and everything else.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. So yeah, I've had a bit of an organise. It's hard to do in a small space, but I think I might have cracked it. So,
space is a premium everywhere, in this country anyway. We're so squished up that we've got to make the best use out of everything. Especially if you're sort of just starting out, because if you're just starting out, you don't want to do your brains in at Big Doug and spend loads and loads of racking.
No.
Other racking shops are available. But, you don't, do you? Because where do you stop?
Yeah.
First of all, you got to start making some money first.
Yeah.
I mean that theory brings me on to something that's hit me today. I've been in a couple of shops lately, and it's the whole basis of do we want to do it properly or cheaply?
Yeah.
I've been in a shop today and they've put, let's say, 50 grand down on an auto.
Not bad.
But they're still, and they're using it,
yeah.
But they're still using their old techniques as if they've got a manual. So there's no positioning unit, there's no crosses on films.
Really?
The dryer is a 3-foot little buddy.
Oh.
I know, yeah. So you can't get more than about $3.50 an hour down it. And the frames, this is the killer. The frames are wooden.
No way.
The frames are still wooden from when they first started printing, when they put their hand in the pocket and paid 250 quid for a starter kit, which was a 2-station carousel. And they bought some wooden frames off eBay from a local wood butcher.
That blows my mind.
And I can't... Obviously, the problem with our industry is that you can start being a screen printer for 250 quid.
Yeah.
Use a bit of old flip-flop as a squeegee, some ink you've stolen from somewhere, or some dubious guy out of a back door of another printer, and all of a sudden you're off printing, thinking you're great. You've got PVA glue on pallets, you've got pieces of old card as scraper cards, and you can actually start producing shirts without any major investment.
Yeah.
How long do you keep that up?
Do you know what?
I'm like you. We're from Yorkshire. What's the one thing we really don't want to do? We don't want to spend any fucking money. Both allergic to it. It brings us both out in rashes. But even I would buy some plastic scrapers. Invest in some scrape. There has to be a point where what you spend, you're going to get back.
Yeah. I mean, the industry, there's almost a romantic DIY spirit, like punky DIY spirit, and it's all this, because most people start out of a spare room or the garage or the shed or whatever, and they start with next to no, and they start with flip-flop and wooden screens off eBay and all that, and they're pulling paint through the screens, not ink, pulling paint.
Yeah. And, buying it from Dulux, they're buying it from Dulux.
Or even just using straight up bleach, getting Dettol on job.
So when do you think that time is? What's that crossover, that threshold moment where you go, do you know what? This is actually what I'm doing for a living now, rather than a side hustle.
Exactly then. If you're making the decision that you want to make a living screen printing, that's exactly when you should stop being a tight ass, because it's not possible. You can't do it. I mean, me and you have said a few times that you can start printing. Yeah, you can start printing. You can use a wooden screen and you can use the hinge clamps and you can pull ink through a screen, but you couldn't put it in a retail shop.
Yeah, we never pushed it. We only pull. Yeah, just checking.
But you couldn't sell that as a retail product. The chances of it curing properly are slim. If it's a DIY project for yourself, I'm sure you can get away with it to an extent, and I'm sure you can make a few T-shirts, but you can't.
So if you're printing for your mates, so you think if you're printing for your mates,
if you're printing for your mates or yourself, or if you're just doing it for fun, I think that DIY spending limit is acceptable. But if you've made that conscious decision to become a print shop and you're going to print for other people, your responsibility to your customers is to do so on the best equipment that you've got available and that you can get at the time, and not cut corners, because cutting corners is going to lessen the print quality.
So the thing that I've seen today, because I've had a bit of an eye on it today, a bit of an epiphany. I'm trying not to be too specific, but
you have to be careful, don't you?
I have to be relatively careful, but basically there's an old guy and a young guy, and I'm training the young guy, and the old guy's there, and he's probably going to finish soon.
Right.
And I'm watching the old guy work.
Yeah.
And he's producing good quality work.
Yeah.
He's working on his own, but he's working to his methods that over let's say 30 years, he's perfected and honed to be highly skillful.
Right.
I'll give you just a really quick example. Printing manually. He's got a job to do. It's only half a dozen, maybe 12 polo shirts with a little left chest print in black. Now, he has taken the decision not to change the palette from an adult to a kid's, but to print the shirts 2-ply, to lay the shirts on top of the palette.
Never.
Front and back. Now, obviously, both me and you would look at that and go, well, that's crazy. Just stop being lazy, change the palette.
Yeah.
But then I looked at the print. It was perfect.
Was it just like black on white?
It was black on green, on a Kelly green.
Ah, you see, you could probably get away with it.
And that's the key, get away with.
Yeah.
And it made me question, who's right, me or him? Because he got that job on and off that press in no time at all, with zero stress, and the end product was perfect. So if I hadn't seen him do that, everybody in the factory, including the customer at the end, would think he was the dog's danglies.
Well, that shook me up.
So it made me question, who's right?
We're right.
Because I'm teaching the guy, I know, yeah. I'm teaching the young guy to sort of like, right, okay, this is what we do. If we've got this job, we need to change the palette. Yeah. And then we need to make it stick. We need to measure where it goes. Again, measuring. For fuck's sake, what is it about printers that measure in fucking fingers? You tell me anywhere in a book where it tells you the imperial measurement, the standard is a fucking finger. I've got sausage fingers. I work with people with paedophile fingers, and all of a sudden we've got this standard across the industry that's it wants to be 3 fingers that down. It looks a bit off. Make it 4 fingers. What? Is your ruler broken? No, I've got a ruler here. Well, use your fucking ruler then. Measure a finger. How big's a finger? About 2.5 centimetres. Right, so 3 fingers is 75 mil. No, it's 3 fingers. Oh, fucking hell.
I mean, having multiple run-ins with customers with rulers, Yeah, the old 2
Yeah.
finger measurement don't work for me nowadays. You just can't take that chance because we asked for it 2.5 inch from the net line, and then they get it 2.6 inch, and you're getting emails with photos and stuff.
we never give a customer an exact measurement. We give them a visual, yeah. Because if you're giving them exact measurement, that's when the ruler comes out, yeah.
Well, I typically give them a measurement, but with a tolerance.
A disclaimer.
Maybe a centimetre either way or whatever. Because you
on a Tuesday it's 75mm. On a Wednesday, because I go out to quiz night on the Tuesday and have a few skinfuls. So on a Wednesday night, it could be anywhere between 9 and 6.
You've got to account
Tolerance.
for human
Commercially acceptable. Acceptable.
This is something even an auto can't fix. An auto.
No, because at the end of the day, it's human beings that are just sticking them on with the squishy things. The variable is the squishy thing.
Yeah, as fast as you can as well. Don't forget, you're trying to keep up with production. You're chucking them on. You get once you get into your flow, you're chucking them on, pulling them back, dropping them in place.
Touch it 3 times. My rule is touch it 3 times, and I have to laugh because if I go to a place where they have a DTG machine,
right,
and the DTG printer comes along and says, "Oh, I can load."
Yeah.
Okay, off you go. If they touch it 15 times, they touch it once, I swear to God. They put it on, they go back to it, they stand back, they tilt their head like a wanting puppy.
Yeah.
And they look at it and they go, "What do you think?" I'm like, "You fucking touched it 10 times in the last 15 minutes. I think if we don't print it now, I think we can all go home. Just get it printed."
Oh, no.
I'm not sure it's straight at back. Oh, for fuck's sake, just print it.
Just chuck the bugger on, pull it back, drop it, jobs are good. And
looking for that seam, looking for that crease line down the side of a tubular shirt.
On the old
Gildans.
Gildans.
Well, it must be straight on. I wasn't going to name any names, but the old Gildans with a tubular shirt, and it's got a other shirts are as bad as. And it was like, well, what about that seam there? It's perfect. Well, yeah, but these are sometimes sewn by 5-year-old girls.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you now, they don't stick to that seam. It's pure chance. You've got to take a view of it. Plus, it's a piece of cloth. It's a flexible piece of cloth that moves around all the time. It's not measured when it's made. It's made by humans, and it's not measured when it's put on. It's sort of like the best you can get is to within 5mm of either side of where it's straight and whether it's in the same place. Yeah,
I've had conversations with customers, not many, but 1 or 2 spring to mind. And I've had to explain to them, we're printing on a cotton shirt which flexes and moves and creases and goes all over shop. We're not printing on a solid piece of metal with a perfectly smooth. You know what I mean? No. So you're always gonna. So especially in rectangular or square designs, if you're printing something with completely straight edges, this is when you'll really notice it. Yeah.
Square an image in a square box on a shirt. You straight away you're like, can I feather and distress them edges a bit? What for? So that I don't have to be such a pain in the ass trying to load them. I can actually be a little bit more tolerant with them.
I had a box come back to me once, and so what I did is I put it on my pallet and I got my laser line, and I made laser lines and sent him a photo and said, "Look, these are absolutely bang on." But to his eye, without those laser lines, he thought it was wonky as out, but it just wasn't. It just wasn't.
What did you think? T-shirts. Were you just trying to get away with it?
No. Well, when he sent me the email, I looked at it and I thought, well, the first thing is he sent me an email with a photograph wearing it, and I looked at it and I said,
he looked like he had a pebble in his shoe.
Oh dear. I says, oh God, he threw me off now. So I looked at it and I thought, well, I can see what you're saying, but I'm so sure that I printed these straight. But I said, look, I'll cover the cost, get them back to me, and I'll replace them. When we got them, I got a couple out, put them on my press, and I was like, hang on, these are fine. And just to prove it to myself, because obviously I doubt myself more than my customers first. I'm my worst enemy. I'm my biggest critic.
We're all as biggest critic, aren't we? Especially as printers. I think we sort of like look at it and go, did I fuck up there? Okay, because if I fucked up, I'm gonna put my hand up and say I fucked up.
Oh, definitely.
But I'm not gonna do it without some proof.
No, well, that's a lesson I've learned definitely over the years. to always check. First of all, if somebody says there's something wrong with your shirts, which luckily don't happen too often nowadays, but when it does, first thing we do is say, right, get them back to us, which is fair enough. I think that's like that's typical trading laws or whatever that you should do anyway.
Yeah.
Get them back to us, just so I can have a look at them, and then if we've messed up, get them replaced, no questions asked, and we'll get them done as soon as we possibly can for you. Obviously, that's like just standard. There's nothing special about that. We should all be doing that. But what I found recently, the more I enforce that, because I'll be honest, in earlier years, somebody would tell me, and I'd just go, shit, sorry, mate, I don't really want to put you through any hassle of sending them back. And
here's your money back.
I'd tiptoe on it. I'd say, here's your money back, or I'll just reprint them. That was me just trying to be a good customer service. Now, what I found, now that I've been a little bit harsher on this, not harsher, sorry, a little bit stricter on just asking for them back, a lot of stuff doesn't turn up. They keep it. Or if it does come, you have a look at it, and whatever problem they've said, they can often be totally fine, and you can sort of talk it through with them and get the job sorted. It's rare anything comes back to us nowadays, and if it
do you think customers try it on?
I'm trying to say that in a politically correct way.
I know, yeah. I just cut through the crap for you and basically said, do you think they're trying to try it on?
In a nutshell, they just have it on there, don't they?
There are some customers and some people who naturally try and complain for a discount. It's just in their very nature.
It's in their instinct, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just normal for them. So
I don't know. It depends what type of shop you are. I know for me personally, we try to cut through that. We try to build up customers that are just decent human beings, to be honest. We can...
Have you found any?
Oh, we've got plenty. If it's anything, I'm a bit of a whinger, me, a bit of a moaner. And,
are you?
But no, I don't know if it's come across yet, but I must admit, we've got a lot of good customers who are really decent and no hassle. And every now and again you get a new customer who you can tell, you can read an email and you're like, I've got a bad feeling about this.
Yeah.
And you obviously have to be.
You said this before. You said you get a feel.
Instinct.
Yeah. You said Jade reads the emails and go, look at the way he's worded this. This guy's going to be be a twat, basically.
Jasmine's picking it up as well. You can just tell. It's like a sixth sense. You pick up a dickhead radar, don't you?
Yeah. Knobhead monitor. You've got yourself a knobhead monitor. Is she available for hire?
She demands a high wage, so.
All right, okay, forget that then. We're all about frugal economy.
I know.
There's only so much money available.
Yeah. So anyway, we've gone on a proper tangent here. We were talking about wooden screens 2 minutes ago. Wooden screens.
Went off on one.
It's a good job.
I mean, you'd almost think it wasn't scripted, wouldn't you? If we weren't sticking to that strict sort of like list that we'd both got in front of us, it'd just sound like it were random, wouldn't it?
The word you're looking for is raw. This is what we're aiming for.
It is, yeah.
It's not polished.
It's fucking raw.
It is what it is. You get what you get.
Like sewage is raw.
Right.
We'll roll it in glitter.
Right. Well, this is what I try to do in editing. I try to glitter it up a little bit somehow.
There's only so much. Yeah. Well, if you want to come back to where we were on Properly or Cheaply.
Properly or
cheaply, yeah.
So, have you come to a conclusion? Are you happy with your analysis? Or are you still a little bit torn?
I'm stuck because I want to do it as cheaply as possible. But there has to be a line that you cross where, I mean, for me today it was cardboard scrapers. Now, when I first started, I used cardboard scrapers, but we were in the same mill as the paper printers. So the cardboard scrapers were just offcuts.
Yeah.
And they worked perfectly. In fact, there's a company in America come up with the scraper card, ultimate cleanup card or whatever it's called.
Yeah, I've got loads of them. That's what I use.
Yeah, well, that's just a straight copy of what we were using that the graphic printers were throwing away. So it were
just
we're almost like recycling, offcuts recycling. Throw into the guillotine, cut them into little squares, and they were great.
Yeah.
But I've seen people cut up cardboard boxes. Now, once you put one of those, sort of like brown cardboard fluted boxes, anywhere near a plastisol ink that's got solvent in it, the solvent just runs it up. It just soaks it up.
Yeah, it just turns to mush.
Yeah, so you can use it once, then you have to throw it away. So it doesn't, for me, it doesn't solve the problem. We'll go on the flip side of it. I was at another shop, and they had a plastic scraper for every colour. Every colour. So we're talking
Every Pantone.
I think yes.
Oh,
no.
wow.
So if you look on my Instagram, I took a picture, brazen across it, and it must have had over 200 open pots with spatulas sticking out, plastic spatulas. Now, number one, I don't like the open pots, but that's a different thing because you get sort of like wood lice. You get wood lice and spiders and all sorts of midges stuck in top of it. But I thought to myself, what an absolute waste. And he said, no, they're like a couple of quid, maybe £1.50.
Yeah.
And if I'm paying somebody to clean that, and they're on, let's say, a tenner an hour,
yeah.
By the time they've cleaned it, dried it, washed it, walked all over, scratched their ass and done whatever they need to do, I've probably paid them £2 to wash it. I might as well just pay £1.50 and have them all dirty, ready.
He's got a point, you know. I mean,
it looked awful, but from a logic point of view, actually, yeah, he has got a point. So I've got one guy that does that, you know, seen the little issue in the shop, solved it by just putting his hand in his pocket and buying a shitload of 200 quid's worth of scrapers. And then I've got another guy who's quite happy for the operator to stop the press, find a Stanley knife, cut a piece of cardboard box, usually the card box you were wanting to use, so therefore double whammy, now you've got no cardboard box to put your shirts in. Run the risk of cutting a femoral artery while he's cutting towards himself because nobody's ever taught him how to use a craft knife before. And then cutting it up into small bits, which are basically one use and then throw away. So they're the two ends of the scale, and I'm trying to work out who's right because they're both making it work. And when you go to the guy who's using the cardboard and say, look, you know, give me 200 quid and I'll buy loads and loads of scrapers and you'll never have to use a piece of cardboard again, he's going to go, well, no, I'd rather save the 200 quid and stick to what I'm doing because it's working.
Yeah, but it's like you say, it's for time cost. And also, I mean, if we mix inks, the amount of time we spent mixing that ink, most of it is just wiping the palette knives in between, you know, each pot or whatever. And
wipe it in between. You don't put your red into your white like everyone else does.
And, so you've got to factor in.
That's how we get the rainbow on the top.
Yeah, this is how we do split fountain prints. You've got to factor in one of two things: chemical and scrap t-shirts that you're using to wipe them, or baby wipes, which I would say is probably the two options most shops use. Or
there's a third option.
Go on.
Laundered rags.
Laundered rags.
Laundered rags were big when I first started, and they're still around these parts. Up here in deepest, darkest Yorkshire, then there is still a company that will supply you with rags.
Right.
And then you put them into the used bin when you're done with them. Then once a week they collect them, launder them, and bring you them back.
That's amazing. I've never heard that.
So it's a constant printers. It used to be called printers cloths. Guy in Kipax.
No way.
And it's a. I don't think it is now. I think it got bought out by a bigger firm. It was a great service and a little bit of a scam.
Right.
And we sort of accepted the scam because of the great service.
Yeah.
So here's the scam, which it's such a clean system. So you rent the rags.
Yeah.
And they are cut up, sewn edged, grey. Let's say 300mm by 300mm squares.
Right.
Good quality, absorbent, none of this nylon which, you know, I refer to as the Izal of the rag world. Don't really soak it up, just moves it.
Yeah. It just moves it up the knife.
That brought back some horrible childhood memories of Izal.
You've lost me on Izal. Never heard of it.
It was waterproof toilet paper.
Really?
Oh, it was like shiny greaseproof paper. I don't really want to go down this rabbit hole, but when you get a bit of time, just do a Google of IZAL.
I'm not going to Google images.
It was it was sold as toilet paper, but I swear to God, it were waterproof, so it didn't wipe it; it just moved it.
It's the type of shit you get in shopping centres and stuff when they try to cut corners.
They were cheap, yeah. My granddad used to buy it because they were cheap.
Oh God.
Oh God, where are our printer's cloths? So, yeah, they are good, and you can get them for engineers or printers, and never the two shall mix because you don't want engineer swarf in your printing. So they were very good. And what they would do is you would rent it, and let's say you rent 500 rags.
Yeah.
So they deliver you 500 rags, 250 in week 1, and then on week 2, you'd collect the first dirty 250 and drop off you another clean 250.
Yeah.
And that cycle would just keep going, and you get constantly clean rags, and he'd launder them, get all the ink out of them, put them in his big washing machines, and they'd come back clean.
Right.
And they'd probably last you a year. So economically and environmentally, very good.
Yeah.
Although we don't ask what chemicals they use to wash with.
No, keep that one quiet.
But the scam part of it was, he would count them in and count them out.
Right.
So at any point you should have had 250 rags on your premises.
Yeah.
So here was the scam. Everybody used to put them in the bin, take them home, throw them at the dog, roll them up, and do whatever you want with them. You find them in the bathrooms.
Yeah.
And then at the audit every 6 months, you'd go, all right, okay, you've only got 198 now, Tony. Hang on, where are they? So I'm going to charge you a £5 for each one that you've lost.
Sure, for now.
And here they are replaced again. And you were so far into it, you couldn't stop it because this is how you relied on everything. I thought it was a great thing. And it still happens now. I know of one shop close to me that still use this system, and it's more economical for them to do that than buy rags and put them to landfill.
Oh, yeah.
More environmental. And it's just accepted as part of the cost of printing in the same way that power and electric and rates and everything else is classed as a cost of printing.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, the rags we use, it's just my misprints.
Yeah,
I've never considered laundering them. I mean, you don't necessarily have to. I mean, if we get as misprints, cut them up, clean down the surfaces, you only get so many times out of them. You can run them through a dryer, but eventually they sort of get a bit crusty, and then they end up in bin, which is not
environmental. No. Think about the dolphins and turtles. Remember?
Well, you've got to do, haven't you? So yeah, I'll have to look into that. Maybe if you're a big enough shop, have some sort of washing machine on site, which would be good for testing as well. And you could chuck all your rags in and then just reuse them. At least get a couple more goes out of them.
So I've got a shop in Europe, and they're 100% water based.
Yeah,
and they use the equivalent of the closest word would be chamois leathers.
Yeah. Oh well, that's genius. Water based, like you must.
Water based chamois leathers. They just rinse them out and use them again and dry them.
Unreal.
Rinse them, use them, and dry them. Rinse them, use them, and dry them.
Yeah,
I'm like, when and I only saw it this year.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, that's such a simple, clean solution. Why have I only just seen it now after 30 years?
It's always obvious as well, isn't it? It's always so obvious. You don't ever think of it, but then you see it and you just smack yourself in the face like, why didn't I think of that?
Reusable rags, yeah, just reusable cleaning cloths, like a chamois leather. So they don't molt. Everything, it was great. You're not still water based now, are you? You've gone over to the dark side again.
This leads us absolutely amazingly into something that's on my list. On my list of little notes. So let's have an argument.
Okay.
Well, not an argument, but I think it's definitely a discussion and a debate. I've gone back to plastisol after a few years of using acrylic water-based inks. And the biggest reason, you'll be shocked to hear, is because they've got really bloody expensive. But the other reasons...
Are they still around about the same price as plastisol? Or did they break the cost of plastisol?
I think there's a big gap right now.
You think that the HSAs are more expensive than plastisol?
Yeah, definitely. All I would say is, I were getting 30 kilogram barrels of white,
Mm.
and this year alone, it's gone up £100. Just this year alone. So it's become the balance of, I really love the results of HSA white printed on a t-shirt. I love the results.
Yes, it's got a retail feel. It's definitely got a retail feel.
Oh, it's fantastic. I'll never criticise the finish. I find the printability of it copeable. I can print it. I can get away with it.
Let's use the word challenging.
Yeah, it's a challenge. It's definitely, it needs babysitting, and the balance now it's just tipped in the price versus printability for me has tipped back into the favour of Plastisol now, and I've got to make that decision because at the end of the day, as much as I'd love to just be all completely print focused, I have to put my business head every now and again on, and the prices were pushing me back to Plastisol, but.
Do you think you could have passed that cost on to your customer, or do you think it was so prohibitive that you actually reached the breaking point? The straw that breaks the camel's back. Because how much I always said you could never put more than 10 pence worth of ink on a shirt, really. But obviously, I've had to rethink that because I used to say that 20 years ago, and we used to pay 22 quid for a tub of white.
Yeah.
Plastisol. But we'd buy a pallet full, you know what I mean? It wasn't just one. And that's completely gone out the window now. It's a petrochemical byproduct. You only know when you go fill your car up and shit.
Yeah.
That it's got a lot more expensive. So let's say it doubles in price.
Yeah.
And I've got 10 pence of ink in my head.
Yeah.
So that means now if I put 20 pence worth of ink on it, I think the customer will swallow an extra 10 pence, don't you?
But let's just say it used to cost me 10p, now it costs me 20p to put that ink onto a t-shirt. When I take that t-shirt off a pallet and put it through my dryers twice, because it's water-based and it takes twice as long to cure, and my electric bills have gone absolutely unbelievably sky high. I've never seen such crazy numbers. That's definitely, it sways that cost. And it's getting to a point where there's only so much you can do with your prices before customers just look elsewhere. As loyal as customers are to me, most of my customers, and as much as you like to think your quality stands for itself, there's still a price limit. So
if I was going to argue on the side of the ink companies, which I rarely do, but I will do this time, then I would say there is a solution for each one of those problems that you mentioned. The length of cure.
Yeah.
I think we can solve that problem with cross-linkers, additives, or there is a new ink I've seen around now which cures at like 110 degrees, a water-based ink.
Right.
So there are solutions. 110, yeah. It's really good. Yeah, and it's from where you normally buy your stuff from, so it's a good ink.
No way.
And so that solves an energy problem. Now there's no way I can get a Plastisol to do that. So the Plastisol needs to reach 165, 160, somewhere around about there.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to use more energy to cure my Plastisol. So that argument can be backed up with a little bit of chemistry.
Yeah, I never knew that. So I'm going to guess, is it something base? I don't want to say the word because I don't want to single out the company. But is the ink called Summit Base?
It's called 110.
No, it's not what I'm thinking anyway. No, I've not heard of that one. I've not seen that.
Yeah, so I'm not saying use it. I'm not saying it's fantastic, but there are solutions to that energy problem. There are solutions to the workability problem.
Yeah.
Obviously, some of it mean increasing your skills or changing your working habits. Now, changing is not always for the worse. Sometimes it's for the better. When you clean up with water, it's so much easier.
Yeah.
But it's easier when you can take it off the press, rinse it, and click it back into the press.
Yeah.
Whereas when you've got a manual and you've got to do it on site, if you were, and you risk moving the reg because you're a bit heavy-handed, or you miss the corner of a design because the pub's open and you want to get out quick, then it can cause more problems than it solves.
Yeah.
I started with water-based, went to plastisol, come back to water-based, and now we're sort of in the middle. And I would say, from what I see, I would say it's still 80-20 in the favour of plastisol. If we take away the big boys, so the big sports companies,
Yeah.
we're looking at 80-20. 80% of the people I know use plastisol, and only 20% of the people I know use water-based. If we go to the big sports guys, then they have RSLs, restricted substances lists. They have big shareholders to meet. They don't want little Johnny to fail his GCSEs because he sucked the inside of a shirt that's got something chemical on it.
Yeah.
So they've gone wholeheartedly into water-based. But I'm telling you now, they don't pay the same as plastisol prices because they're buying, a house full at a time.
I'm going to say gallons of stuff. I'm not opposed to going back to water-based. I like the finish. I do think that I can get a pretty damn close replica of water-based printing with plastisol.
Using reducer, using angles, pressures, higher mesh counts, double strokes, because you can double stroke without flooding so easily.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I mean? That's one of the things.
It's so easy on a manual to double stroke without flooding.
Yeah.
And a fast stroke as well, which means you've got a higher mesh count, which means you're reducing the amount of ink that goes down.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're in much more, as much as I'd love an auto, you have the ultimate control when you're feeling how you pull, never push that squeegee.
Yeah, absolutely. This is what I mean. These are the little tricks you can do. If there was an hesitation for me to go back to plastisol, stigma around plastisol, that plastisol is a thick, heavy print with like a sandpaper texture.
Those days are gone.
The prints, I can print the exact same design, one water base, one plastisol, and the customer could 9 times out of 10.
Only you would know. If you didn't tell anything, or you didn't say anything to anybody, only you would know.
If you wanted to be a model, you could pass off plastisol as water base. If you really, really wanted to try.
Absolutely no comment whatsoever. Let me speak to my lawyers before we go any further.
I'm sure there are some shops that would do that. But my point is, it's replicatable.
It's easy for you to say.
I can't speak for now. But plastisol's got a bit of a stigma, which I think is unjustified.
Well, plastisol's changing. Obviously, the plastisol that you're using now is nothing like the plastisol that I used to use back in the dark days when we were using 10T meshes, no base, double stroke with a round bullnose blade, and opaque, so heavy with lead and all sorts of crap. And the ink, the print would sort of like, it would save you in a revolution because nobody would stab you through that bastard. I swear to God, you'd be fine.
Well, I mean, the ink that I'm using now, the plastisol I'm using today, is leaps and bounds above the plastisol I was using when I first started 10 years ago. And that's a short period of time in the grand scheme of things. But it's come on.
What letter does it start with?
At the minute, I. But I'm thinking of either going to TI or W. I've been having a little. Okay. I'm looking for the most opaque mixing system.
Okay, I know which one that is. I'll tell you later.
That'll be handy.
So I think we're on we're in the middle of a journey, and I've been known to write this down in articles.
All right.
I think pretty soon we'll just have ink that we clean up with water.
Right.
We won't have water-based and we won't have solvent-based. Right. It'll just be ink that we happen to clean up with water. Because the plastisol guys are taking everything out of it. Every time we take something out of it, it gets more expensive. So the phthalates have come out of it, the leads have come out of it.
Yeah.
Now the PVCs are coming out of it as well.
Yeah.
And it's expensive to get those inks, and then we're getting them lower curing temperatures. So some of the plastisols now are curing at 125 and 130.
Yeah.
As a standard in a mixing range.
Yeah.
And they've got no PVCs in them. They're passing all the tests. And some of the water-based have some dubious chemicals in them that aren't PVC, so they don't get flagged. They're not phthalates, so they don't get flagged. And we have to be sort of like, we're looking at the water-based trying to be like the plastisol in its properties,
Yeah.
and the plastisol trying to be like the water-based in its appearance.
Yeah.
And I think both of them will work together to eventually just come up with this usable ink that we happen to clean with water.
Well, wouldn't it be amazing if we had a one pot fits all? And I think
we're getting there. I think we're getting there. It all depends on how much we want to pay for it as well, because if we go back to your argument of it being so expensive,
yeah,
I have a client that double his print price
yeah,
if the customer requests water-based. So in other words, it's not his choice. It's the customer's choice. And if the customer demands that he doesn't want to kill any turtles and dolphins and he wants to put a little green leaf sticker on the front of it, then he's going to have to pay for it. In the same way, when you go to the supermarket and you want to buy organic veg, well, you can have this organic potato. It looks exactly the same as the mass-farmed potato, but it's double the cost.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, I'll buy that potato and it'll make me feel all warm and cuddly inside. And I'll go home knowing that I've saved the planet, or at least I've done my bit to save the planet by swapping my tasting potatoes.
Yeah.
And I think we've got the same thing in ink. And if we put the onus on the customer and say, right, okay, here's your options. I can do it in plastisol. In my opinion, it feels fantastic, looks great, and it's awesome. But if you want to go with the ticketed, certified, no dolphins and turtles were killed in the making of this T-shirt, then it's going to cost you double. Are you willing to pay for it?
I think that's definitely a solution for a bigger shop. For me, I don't have enough customers that are asked whether it's water-based or not. The majority don't care.
Yeah, do they know? And number two, do they care?
No, only a tiny few do. And my issue here is, can I afford to be buying barrels of ink to be sat there for months and months and months waiting for those one or two customers? And I can't really, I can't afford it. If you're a bigger shop, or one day down the line when I'm running an auto and maybe I'm getting more custom in, I'll definitely reconsider. I think the printability with an auto, that changes my argument slightly, and maybe the balance swings back the other way. But just as a hand printing shop, at the level that I'm at, knowing the customers that I've got, it's just how it's fallen for me, and I'm not looking at it as a negative. And I think, like you say, when you brought up the fact that there are certain PVCs and phthalates and stuff, all of that's minimal or removed these days in the ink that we've got.
Yeah.
And is plastisol necessarily not eco-friendly? I think that's definitely an argument these days, because there are certain arguments like how much power does it cost to produce the ink? How much power is used to cure the ink? The amount of waste. I mean, I use triple the amount of water-based ink as I do plastisol. And some of it ends up in bin, because obviously you're going to have to use a lot of ink. You have to use a lot more ink in your screen
for the flood, to keep it all fluid. Yeah.
Especially as a manual printer, especially in this heat at the minute, I would have to use so much ink. If I would print,
it's England. It's just broke 21 degrees. Oh my God! Let's just stop. Yeah.
Oh, it's too much. I don't know what Arizona desert and all this stuff like. Know what it feels like now, but well, don't forget, I'm basically working in a loft with one tiny little hatch window, so it's slightly amplified in here. But anyway, I just think there's certain practicalities where that balance has gone for me now.
I think there's a plus and a minus for both, and depending on your customer and your passion for the turtles and dolphins.
Oh, absolutely, that plays a part.
if you
Well, what I mean by that was not to be condescending, but if you're a shop and you're going down the route of I want to be as eco-friendly as possible, well, you're going to have to print water-based, and you're just going to have to suck it up and learn how to print water-based. If that's the route you're going down, that's totally fine, and there's a market for it in this country in particular. I think some parts of Europe have taken to it way more than us, and I think in America, from the shops that I see, barely anybody uses it in the States. So if that's your marketing angle, or if you just morally think that is like a necessity, then totally go for it. But for me, that's not my angle. My angle is I want to produce
good prints,
the best quality, I want you to look at a print that I've done and I just want you to go, whoa, I can't believe that. I can't believe you printed that. And if that's your reaction, was it on plasticell? Oh no, well it's shit then. You know what I mean? I don't. Most people don't think like that. Most people look at print and.
Well, the first thing we do is touch it. For some reason, all printers have to touch it. Yeah, you don't look at it, you touch it, and you go, "Oh, that's nice." Well, open your eyes and fucking look at it. Never mind just touching it with your fingers that you've used to measure the fucking distance with. Actually, have a look at it and see what it looks like.
Have you ever turned a shirt inside out to see if it's been underbased? To see if somebody's cheated and just printed colours?
Did you have to ask that question? I do it in Primark.
You just can't help it, can you?
I've been known to do it while someone's wearing it.
This is why you're not allowed in Primark anymore.
Yeah, no, yeah. They don't let me in anymore.
Are you ready for this? I'm going to upset some people. Do you think Discharge is a bit of a cheat in that regards? Now, let me say this. I'm only joking, but if you were a print shop and all you print is Discharge and all you've ever printed is Discharge and you've never had to underbase and you've never had that issue of regging and it's a pretty simple life, isn't it? Just pulling ink through a screen and just making sure it butt regges.
You need to lock your door and change your address. You just upset half the world.
I know. I'm only joking. I don't actually mean it. I just thought it'd be a controversial thing to say, but
that's a conversation grenade you just dropped there.
But I'm only joking. But
no, I honestly, so you know what I do for a living. I go around places and I introduce people to all sorts of techniques, and usually it's from a zero starting point. So they've never held a squeegee, never printed before at all, and we go through, this is plasticell, this is Discharge, this is water-based, this is HSA. And we have to go through and show them and let them decide. There's no point me going, you must use this because I don't want to kill the turtles and dolphins.
No.
We've got to give them all the options and let them decide.
Yeah.
And when it comes to Discharge, now I love Discharge, but I also hated using it because you couldn't see what the hell you were doing until it came out of the dryer. The dryer was so slow that it was at least 60 shirts.
Yep.
And you get to the end of the dryer and the one on the end of the dryer goes, did you know you've run out of red?
Yeah.
Really? There's 50 in the dryer. There's 15 on the press. That's 65 shirts that I've absolutely lost and ruined. I can't do anything about. Then they get have you got that little leak on the left-hand side? Which, again, you can't just take to the spotting out machine unless you've got a Sharpie that's the same colour as every Gildan that's ever been invented.
Yeah.
And the act of regging it up and making it look good is actually slightly more difficult when you can't see what the fuck you're doing.
Well, yeah, I guess so. That's true. Yeah.
You've got to get it right on a white shirt first, and then when you get it on a white shirt first, you stick it onto a black shirt, and you think you're doing all right, and then end of the dryer, this red's not come out right, and you realise you've had it for like 6 hours, and it's just on the cusp of going off. And
true.
So Discharge gives the best result of a print that I've ever seen. So hanging a shirt up that's been printed with Discharge, touching it like we have to touch it, turning it inside out like we're duty bound, and even closing your eyes and feeling for the print when you can't feel it. That's the holy grail. It's what we were aiming for the whole time we were printing.
Yeah.
But the cost of throwing the ink away after 8 hours or managing what you actually have to do, the smell of the zinc sulfate stuff that we have to put in there, the constant aggressive nature against the emulsion, the printing blind, basically. All these things, while we can up our skills and we can get good at using it, what we've got a higher skill set, which is great. We've got a better product, which is great, but fuck, is it hard to use?
Yeah.
So, and then times it by the fact it only works on organic fibres.
Yeah.
And, today's market is what? If you had to put a number on it, you probably know this number better than me, but I'm going to say 70% some sort of performance wear. So some sort of man-made fibre, whether it's rayon, viscose, whether it's polyester.
Yeah, it's always blends.
The days of 100% cotton product are well behind us.
Yeah, well, I try very hard to encourage 100% cotton just because I prefer to print it. But like you say,
Yeah,
it's getting
but
harder.
the product selection's thin, though, isn't it?
Well, there's two brands. There's two brands that I can use pretty much.
Yeah, and they're expensive ones.
Yeah, they're top end.
The high quality. I didn't mean expensive. Obviously, that was my Yorkshire bit coming. I meant high quality.
But yeah, it's getting harder and harder.
Which is where high solid acrylic come in. Because you get that
true.
very similar feel, a very similar workability, and it prints on anything. And so I think Discharge now has been resigned to the history books a little bit. So I'm in as much trouble as you for saying that.
Yeah, but it's a style, isn't it? Of metal bands and musicians and stuff. And
rock and pop love it. But so discharge base with plastisol on top against full discharge. I think only the purists would know the difference.
Yeah, and it's something I've experimented with. I've printed water base with plastisol on top, and I printed discharge with plastisol on top. It looks awesome. Yeah, it's amazing. I think that's the best results. Yeah. I mean, water base with water base on top, or discharge with water base on top looks pretty good. But honestly, I don't know if I'm just off, but I really love the soft base of water based white or discharge white with the opacity of plastisol colours. Yeah, because there's very little feel to the plastisol on top of a soft base like that.
Through a high mesh, yeah.
Yeah, obviously through 90 at least. Yeah. I typically just use 90s, but you're not going to feel it, and you're just getting that added opacity.
Yeah, it works, and most of the rock and pop shirts that you see, that's how they're printed like that.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to go.
Yeah,
I think that sort of sums up the debate. Unfortunately, we haven't got a one pot fits all. Most shops are going to need a variation. Yeah, if you can offer all options and just adjust your prices accordingly, maybe that's the best way to go. Yeah,
because I think if you're charging for it, then it's a good thing.
Yeah.
For me, the customer can have anything if he's willing to pay for it, and that's when we come down to the. Do you remember the old triangle? The triangle was the three things. Was it speed, quality, and value? So you can have it fast, you can have it right, or you can have it quick. Pick two. Yep. You can't have three.
No, that's probably true. So, it's like I say, balancing it out. Yeah. It's just that triangle, isn't it, really?
Yeah, you can only have two of them. You can't have all three. You can't have it fast, you can't have it high quality, and you can't have it cheap. But you can have cheap and fast, or you can have, fast and slow and quality, but you can't have everything.
Yeah. Right, then, let me ask you a question.
Go for
because you asked me at the very start of the podcast, and then I didn't return the favour.
Yeah.
What was the highlight of your week?
I've had quite a lazy week, so it's been a slow one. But if we go back since the last time we spoke, getting to see a customer with a brand spanking new machine is always a highlight, because it's
Did he cry though?
It's like a kid at Christmas, and it's sort of like that. Okay, show me what it does. And then when you tell them that, it doesn't actually transport people through time, it just prints T-shirts, they're a little bit disappointed, but it's like, right, okay, make it look pretty again. Make it do that thing again. And that's always sort of like a big bonus in my job. And another one, I learned this sort of like, this is a today one. Today, I said to the guy, what time do you start? What time do you finish? And I got the reply, our standard working week's 34 hours, so we don't work Fridays. And this was not what I'd expect from the firm that I was in. It looked like a proper old school firm that, wants to work people to death. And it sort of like made me feel a little bit, actually, are we getting a bit of progression here? Is a 4-day working week viable? Obviously not, because he's not got enough money to buy plastic scrapers, but that's another thing.
Obviously not.
So that was a bit of an eye-opener, in that I see so many instances, especially when I travel sort of in the Midlands, of people being worked to death 12 hours a day for very little pay. And it was actually nice to see a place where they'd listen to the staff, and the staff had said, look, okay, we won't have a morning break, we won't have an afternoon break, we'll only have 15 minutes for his dinner or whatever it is. We want to work 34 hours a week, and we just want a 3-day weekend.
Yeah.
And the place was buzzing, the place was busy, everybody was happy, and it was quite a nice thing to see. So, yeah, I think the highlight of my week was seeing that print shops can be progressive. They're not all stick in the mud, old tyrannical ogres that want to push the staff to the brink of death.
No, interesting. You see, it's something I've thought about myself.
I'm thinking about working my way up to a 4-day week.
This is why maybe I should look into consulting instead.
Yeah, this is why I should be a consultant. Yeah, it's not the first time I've heard that. Considering how many people I've upset, I definitely should not be. No, I think you need to hide away for a bit. Yeah, let the dust settle.
But it's something I've thought about, and it is literally the 4-day working week. I know I have spoke to another shop who does this. We're talking about a big shop though, in Yorkshire, a massive shop. But for me, I think I'd sooner work 12-hour. I'd rather work 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. 4 days a week than 9 till 5.
Yeah.
I'd sooner, you know what I mean? I'd sooner get all my work done in one big chunk, 4 days a week, even if it's a late night, and then I've got 3 days off. But I've said this for years, and actually doing it is a different matter altogether. Because no matter what, if I set my opening hours as Monday to Thursday, and then we shut Friday and weekend, I'm still going to come in. I can't drag myself away. So that's the goal for later down the line, 4-day working week.
Yeah.
It's a long way off yet there.
It was quite pleasant for me to actually to see it and see it working.
I imagine everybody's so much more upbeat and less tired and less stressed. And
well, then the cynic in me says, all right, fast forward 5 years, and then the staff want to go to a 3-day week.
Yeah.
Another 5 years in the future, and we're going to can we just work Mondays?
Yeah.
So where does it stop?
Yeah, I think a 4 days is reasonable.
Yeah, I thought it was quite reasonable. It was nice to see a sort of a progressive thinking print shop, which I wasn't expecting.
What about your low light? Not to lower the tone out, but
okay, I've had one. Something I never do. I'm usually very organised, and one day this week I'm sat there in my pants, 10 o'clock, having a coffee, looking out a window, just watching the world go by, thinking, I've made some right good life decisions here. I've got a nice easy life, no work today, everything's good. And an email pops into my inbox and says, "Hi Tony, what time are you coming?" Completely utterly forgot about a customer I booked in. Felt like a right dick.
I bet you've not done that in a lot of years, though.
I've never done it, ever. Never done it once.
Ever.
And I rang the customer up straight away, and I'm sort of like, can I come up with a story? Did me great grandma come back from the dead and haunt me? And I've had to stay up all night in case she come back.
Yeah.
And I've just rang her up and went, look, I'm really sorry. I just forgot to write it down.
Yeah.
And it was made the arrangement while I was still in Africa.
All right.
And I've got loads of time. It's all confirmed. I've got all the paperwork. I've got a trail going back. The only thing I haven't done is write it in my calendar.
Last time I spoke to you when you was in Africa, you were on beers and you thought it'd be a really good idea to start a podcast. So it doesn't surprise me, to be fair.
I think there was something in that beer.
Strong stuff of a beer, I guess.
No, it's just cheap.
Got to make most of it, haven't you?
We're about £1 for 600ml. I'm having some of that. Yeah, let's start a podcast. That'd be a good idea, Daddy. Awesome idea.
Yeah. Well, first episode's not come out yet, so we'll see what the public reaction is when all 6 people watch it and give us the feedback.
Yeah, well, I've told my mum all about it, so there'll be 7.
I haven't told my mum. Bloody hell, I'd get her listening to it.
You should tell you off for
That's all I
swearing.
need. Oh, I know why. She thinks I print water-based still.
Yeah, she's off at turtles and dolphins, isn't she?
Ah, yeah. Oh, God. What do you feel about keeping screens on the shelf, as in exposed, ready to pull down and print?
A library of designs.
Having a library of designs, so obviously your customers order, you make your screens, and you might charge your customer extra to put them on a shelf so you can just pull them down next time, or you might just choose you might know a certain customer's going to be repeat ordering quite often. You might just choose to put it there to save yourself some hassle. I haven't been able to do this for a while because I've been printing mainly water-based, and I'll be honest, the water-based breaks down my emulsion eventually, so it's pointless me keeping anything.
Okay.
But now I've gone back to plastisol. It's just something that I'm...
So there's two parts to that. There were a couple of parts to that. One part is should we keep it? The second part is should we charge for it? So I believe we should be charging for screens anyway. So that cost that we charge should easily cover the cost of making the screens. So therefore, if we made them every time, we still wouldn't be out of pocket. The cost of the library is the stock of screens that you have. So I know a customer that has 2,000 or 2,500 screens, all with an image on them, because their customers repeat and they will order once a week.
Yeah.
I have a very similar customer who invested heavily into pre-press so that he didn't have to do that. So when we work it out, that with all the investure into pre-press, the cost of making a screen came out at £3.75. That includes labour, chemicals, water, time. So actually physically coat the screen up, image it, develop it, £3.75. Now that cost came about through probably about, let's go 150 grand's worth of investment.
Yeah, I'm going to say that's amazingly low.
It is very, very low, but everything was automated. The coating's automated, the reclaim's automated, the developing's automated, the imaging's automated. Yeah. So the time, the actual physical cost was very, very low. The time factor, I could have a busted screen back onto press, and the press would only stop for 8 minutes. And of that 8 minutes, nearly 6 of it was drying time.
God.
So that totally negates the need to have a 2,500 screens that I've had to pay about 20 or 30 quid for on my shelves at any time. £20 a screen, 1,000 screens, 20 grand. 2,000 screens, 40 grand. So I've had to physically put my hand in my pocket and spend £40,000 on screens in the hope that they may come back. And if this used to be the standard.
Oh, yeah, no.
And we would keep the screens and keep the screens and keep the screens, and the job never came back. The oldest joke that we had when I used to run a factory in Leeds was that if we're short of work, if the sales guys haven't sold anything, I'll just go through and strip some screens, because you can guarantee that while I'm stripping a 10-colour job, that fucker comes back in while I'm halfway through it.
Yeah.
It's a universal rule within all printers that it's just as you start to strip it.
And so what you're really telling me is...
I just heard seagulls. I just heard seagulls.
I've shut my window and everything. I try to drown it out, but
you're either at Tip or Seaside. I don't know which one.
Yeah, it's a debate, really.
So I have a customer who has a 5-colour job of a large search engine, a large well-known search engine. It comes in every week. It's Jeeves, yeah, it is, yeah. It's a Web Ferret. It's a Yorkshire one, Web Ferret, and they strip the screens every time it comes off, and the print might only be between 50 and 100 pieces, but it's much more economical than keeping a library of screens. So the temptation is not to clean the plastisol off. And I know that's a lazy ass thing, but the temptation is there just to card it off and stick it on the shelf. Then it gets covered in shite. It has a carpet of dust over it. It's got bugs and mosquitoes and wood lice climbing all over it. You wait 6 weeks, and then the job comes back in again. You go, right, I made a fucking fantastic decision. Aren't I clever? I kept those screens. You pull them out. First thing you've got to do is wash them so you can see through them to set up. So you've invested some time there. Then, as you're resetting them up, you realise one of them's got a hole in it. So you've got to remake it anyway. You try and find the films that you thought you'd kept, you can't find them. Or one that you do find's all dog-eared and been covered in bogies. So then you rerun the films. You have to rerun them all, because now the registration won't fit because the film's stretched on one end of the roll to the other. So you end up remaking them anyway. So you kept them for nothing. So my argument, I'm not even going to sit on the fence on this one. Mine is strip the fuckers every time. you're paying a guy to make the screens. You've got all the infrastructure there to make the screens, strip them and remake them every time. It doesn't fucking matter what design you put on them. It's all in part of the cost.
If you're a small shop, if it's just you,
you've got
nothing
to put,
you hate worse than washing screens.
10 screens. From taking them off the press with ink and tape on them to getting them re-imaged with another image, give me a time. If you just all you did was those 10 screens, how long do you think it would take?
Oh, it's a day job.
Including drying time.
Dry time, yeah. Literally just stripped 20 screens, and they sat downstairs. They come off at press, all ink's carded out. Tomorrow I'll have to come in, and it'll take me 4-5 hours to get them stripped, spotless, ready to coat the next day. So I won't coat them tomorrow.
Are you dip tanking or are you spraying and scrubbing?
Yeah, I dip tank. I've only just started doing it. Okay. I've got a dip tank. I used to have a dip tank years and years and years ago, and I made the mistake that I imagine most people do. Left the screens in a little bit too long, diluted the solution, thought it was shit. But it turns out really...
Operator error.
Yeah, operator error. Most things usually are. Put my screens in, set a timer, bang on a minute, straight out, rinse them off, no bother whatsoever. I've barely had to... every now and again I might boost
top it up with some stripper, yeah.
Just chuck another bottle in every now and again, and that's become a much better system for me.
Well, that's off to you. I'm guilty of leaving them in too long. I obviously thought longer it's in there, the more it burns off, but that's not true.
No, because if it starts dripping into your solution, you're just diluting it, and over time, before you know it, you need to leave them in 10 minutes, which is what I did first time I bought a dip tank.
If you've got an all-in-one, then the two chemicals fight each other. The ink remover and the stencil remover don't like each other. I often describe them as like two drunken cousins at a wedding. They're just not going to get on, and the longer you leave it, they're just going to fucking fight like fuck. And you've just got to keep them separate.
Yeah.
When you put them in a big stripping machine, you've got a chamber full of one and a chamber full of the other. And they really are like two drunk cousins at a wedding. You've just got to keep them separate, to the point where some of the manufacturers leave an empty chamber in the middle just so that we don't get any fisticuffs between the two drunken pissheads.
We're talking about the auto reclaims now.
Yeah,
where they go through it looks like a giant
like a car wash. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm not getting one of them anytime soon, so.
No. Well, you ain't got a spare $100,000? What's up with you?
No. Don't know what I'm doing wrong.
You're not using card, you're using them plastic scrapers. That's what you're doing.
I know, I'm not cutting enough cardboard boxes.
That's where all your money's going.
It is, yeah. Bloody cardboard boxes are premium in this shop. I don't know how it happens. I order my stock in, I print the jobs. In theory, I should send them back in the boxes they came in. Yeah. But I always end up with a couple of boxes short. I can't get my head around it. I don't know what happens, but somehow boxes just disappear.
Yeah.
So I value cardboard boxes in this shop. We're not cutting any of the buggers up. We keep
should be printing your own by now. Come on, you've got all the flipping sweet brand.
It's expensive though, isn't it?
Well, what's a box? About £1?
I haven't looked in it in a while.
Last time out they were about £1, but that might be, when I were a lad.
I mean, when you were a lad. I don't know what it is. I've not looked in a year. Maybe per box it's not too bad, and you obviously factor it into the cost, but it's just initial outlay, isn't it?
And space. You've got to have a pallet full of
and the initial space it takes. Yeah. And I've only got a small shop, so.
But you could print your own.
But yeah, well, I mean, if I did do that, if I got some plain boxes, it'd be nice to brand it up.
Yeah, they're quite easy to print.
I think some shops they'll get plenty of plain boxes, brand them up, they'll reuse the boxes that the stock comes in, but they'll, maybe if it's like a 6-box order, one of the boxes will be branded, and then the rest of which is a little bit eco-friendly, I guess, and you still get your branding out.
That's the way it's going at the minute, yeah, because I don't like to see a customer's order going out in a Gildan box. I don't know what it is, it's just something about me. Because that box has already been used, it's already been thrown about by UPS, they like to drop them from multi-story car parks before they give them to you. And by the time the customer gets it, it looks like it's been chewed by a 15-week-old puppy. And so I like the idea of when the customer gets it, it looks the part before he opens the box. If it looks like an old pork pie before he even gets it, then he's going to think, fucking hell, what's in this?
Yeah, you know what? Yeah. I mean, I'm guilty of this. I send all my orders out in the boxes for coming because, like I say, I don't want to spend that money.
No, you're doing it for the dolphins and turtles. That's why you're doing it. It's nothing to do with money. Is you're doing it for the dolphins
Sorry, yeah.
and turtles.
What I mean is, I'm trying to be eco-friendly and recycle. But but then you should look at it in. Well, it's just marketing, isn't it? It's just a marketing expense, and that initial subconscious reaction to seeing a crisp box with a nice logo, and then you open it up and you're like, oh, you see your lovely new shirts, nice, neatly enfolded.
Yeah,
is better than getting a box chucked on the floor, half beaten up, football shaped.
Yeah.
And then you open them up and all shirts have tumble dried themselves all over the shop.
Yeah, because you wouldn't dream of just screwing the shirts up and throwing them in the box. You fold them. You make them, whether it's a printer's fold or whether it's individually polybagged. It's all about that presentation. When they open that box, you want them to go, wow. And when the box looks like an overfilled old pork pie with bits of jelly coming out at edges, then it's a bad first impression.
First impressions have a value, though, don't they? At what point does it add value that overwrites the costs of reusing boxes?
Yeah.
Overwrites the cost of having to lay out on plain boxes or whatever.
Plus, then you've got to then bin your old boxes.
Yeah, and what do you do with them boxes?
Are you creating a prompt? Yeah, so you've got to pay for somebody to take them away.
This is what I say. Some shops that I know of will do a mix of both. They'll send out to get the branding out, send it in one of their boxes, and then they'll send the other half in, just reused Gildan or other branded box.
They should be reversible. That's what I think. Gildan boxes should be reversible.
Yeah, good idea.
So they come in Gildan, but you turn them inside out, print flipping sweet on the outside of them, and off we go. Yeah.
I have seen, I can't remember who it was, and I think he has a spray paint template, and he does that. He spray paints his logo over the, whatever brand of box.
Over Gildan.
Yeah. I've seen someone do it. I think it's a clever idea.
It's a good idea, that. I quite like that.
It's branded, and it's not wasteful. I mean,
I like that.
I don't send out my stuff in battered boxes. I guess this is where the missing boxes disappear. Like you say, sometimes you get a box.
The ones that don't hit the grade.
Yeah.
The ones that don't quite make the cut.
Some of them come already open, so you can't send them back out in those. But that's an interesting.
You mean when UPS, when courier drivers helped himself to an extra large purple t-shirt?
Yeah. Oh,
when he walks in with it on and go, I think your box is missing. You're fucking wearing it, you dickhead. It's for Cadbury. Bring it back.
God. It happens.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Right, I think my list's empty.
I've got some, but I'm going to save them for next week because I don't want to...
All right, fucking hell. Hey, we might be getting professional at this shit,
I know. We might be getting half decent. I mean, honest, 6 people are going to even listen to it, but... Actually, I must admit...
I told you, there's at least me mum.
Yeah, well, I must admit, we put out as little teasers, didn't we? And we had a couple of comments. I think a few people said they were going to listen.
I've got a lot of people interested, a lot of people waiting for it. I don't want to put any pressure on you, like, you know what I mean? But...
Pressure, man, Jesus. How disappointed are we going to be?
We'll find out. They'll let us know.
People really want to listen to us too. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll have to put a disclaimer at the end of it saying the sound will be better on the next one.
Oh, yeah. Well, I went back and had a listen.
And everybody's going to be screaming for video, you know that, don't you?
Well, we can wait till it cools down a bit, I tell you.
Yeah. Put some clothes on.
Yeah. I had to listen to several podcasts, and I purposely listened to their very first episodes. And I don't think we've got out to worry about. We're just as bad.
Doing the research.
Just as bad as those.
We're in good company. Okay, we're in good company. Yeah. I'm all right with that.
We'll be sorted.
I can cope with that.
Cool. Well, I hope you have a enjoyable weekend and rest of the week. And
well, if we're not recording, I'm actually going to see Ed Sheeran tomorrow. I'm off down to Big Smoke. I'm off to go see Ed Sheeran. I'm off to go see a show.
You all right?
And I'm not going to do nothing. I know, yeah.
I'd need counselling after that, mate. I don't know.
I'm off to see Ed Sheeran get decapitated by a death metal band.
Not bloody Metallica again. God.
Metallica. You're bad from that.
God. If you see me outside with some t-shirts on flog, you know.
Homebred man.
Yeah. Got to make a living somehow.
Right, okay, buddy. I don't know how we're going to sign off.
We'll just say see ya.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we have to do it professionally, do we?
Do you know Tara's not a Yorkshire thing?
Isn't it? Have I been duped all these years?
I've got a customer in middle of Wales, right, and she obviously first language Wales. She's on the phone to everybody and speaking with absolutely no fucking vowels whatsoever. And then right at the end, she goes, "Okay, ta-da."
Ta-da. Oh,
I went, "What did you just say?" "Ta-da. It's Welsh for goodbye."
really?
It's fucking not. It's Yorkshire for goodbye. I'm telling you, it's Yorkshire for I'll see you later. Lad.
Aye. Bloody hell.
So there you go, ta-da. So until next time.
I'll see you next time.